Tales by the Moonlight. Emudiate Deo Ogunsala. Dedication. Chapter 2. Series 2. On hearing this, Mr. Tortoise was shocked. He did not know what to do again. He then told himself, I must get to the palace before the ostrich gets there. The ostrich had a thinking time too, to think deeply on what he was going to do and the way out. He knew his friend very well and decided to race to the palace before the tortoise could get there to frame another lie. On arrival, the king noticed that the ostrich looked tired and fatigued. He ordered that a delicious meal be given to his good friend. Gij obliged and prepared a special and delicious meal and handed it over to the ostrich. As the ostrich was about to start to eat in the king's palace, the devil, Mr. Tortoise, entered and shouted, "Do not eat that food. Do not eat that food. It is not for the stranger, but for the visitor." The ostrich understood the tricks and antics of his foe. He refused to obey him. When the ostrich started to eat the food, the tortoise attempted to snatch the food from him. In annoyance, the ostrich used his beak to strike one of the tortoise's eyes. The tortoise quickly withdrew his head into the shell before any harm could be done. The ostrich fumed up and used one of his legs to stamp, kick and drag it on the tortoise's back, hardly leaving behind permanent marks. The tortoise shouted, "Please forgive me, do not let me die, please remove your foot before any harm could be done." Mr. Ostrich, who was a kind and benevolent man, released his leg so that his friend, Mr. Tortoise, would not die. The king of the city was quickly called to the scene. He asked to know what was happening to two good friends. Mr. Tortoise could not talk, but the ostrich exposed all the tricks and antics Mr. Tortoise had played on him. He also mentioned several conflicting stories the tortoise had been framing. The king was deeply touched and could not believe his ears and eyes. He asked the tortoise, "How could you do all these to your friend? An enemy could not have done worse." I am sorry, the great king. I will not behave this way again. Please pardon me," the tortoise pleaded. "I cannot pardon you just like that. You must be punished. If not, other people would do the same someday," concluded the king of the city. He ordered his security men to arrest and detain Mr. Tortoise. He was arrested and arraigned before a court as directed by the king. The judges consisted of 3 chiefs. The tortoise was charged for attempted manslaughter. While he was docked, the ostrich pleaded to the chiefs to temper justice with mercy when trying Mr. Tortoise. The chiefs wondered why the ostrich was pleading for Mr. Tortoise. The most senior chief remarked, "How could a man that suffered so much at the hand of his supposed friend continue to plead for him? After all, you are not the same creature." The tortoise was found guilty of attempted manslaughter on his friend. The judges observed that the tortoise should be imprisoned for 7 years, but for the plea of Mr. Ostrich. Mr. Tortoise was fined 50,000 naira and to equally serve punishment to work on the king's farm for the next 3 months. Mr. Tortoise was ashamed of himself for all his actions and made a pledge to turn a new leaf and never to misbehave again. When the king heard of the ostrich's pleas, he was furious and invited him to the palace to explain why he should not be slaughtered and sacrificed to the gods. Mr. Ostrich asked with a shaky voice, "The great king, what is my offense? The tortoise had told me before that you will one day sacrifice me to the gods, and I said, impossible." The king roared, "I shall punish you for the pleas of pardon and forgiveness you made for the tortoise before the chiefs." The ostrich then laughed loudly and replied, "I see, in our kingdom in the forest, we do not pay evil for evil. We do not believe in the doctrine of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, which is the most common thing among you humans. The law of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth would only make the entire world blind and toothless. I have no regret whatsoever for pleading to spare my friend, Mr. Tortoise." The crowd was short of words to describe the kind behavior and the boldness of the ostrich to talk to the king the way he did. The ostrich, with boldness, spoke his mind to the king on the law of an eye for an eye that is outdated. The king then ruled, "For having a mind of mercy and forgiveness, I have pardoned you, and as from today, you have become my prime minister. I know that you will give the right advice I need most. Mr. Ostrich became very happy and overjoyous for the new post. He danced forward and backward to the admiration of the chiefs and the audience in appreciation of the king's offer. He thanked the king joyfully. "The mighty king of our time, you are indeed a great and benevolent king. This is a lesson to all the wicked souls. If you sow evil, naturally you shall reap evil, and if you do good, goodness will follow you throughout your life.